Welcome to the Analytics Heroes podcast by Modern Data 101, the one and only platform for all things data products and purpose driven analytics. My name is 𝐒𝐄𝐲𝐬𝐬, Community Manager at Modern, and I'll be your host. And how do I pronounce yours?
I'm Sheila Torrico.
Sheila. That's really nice name. It's very uncommon here.
Well, Sheila is not that uncommon in India. Well, I'm talking Sheila, 𝐮𝐸𝐬𝐬𝐿A.
Yeah.
You know the song, the movie Sheila the one.
Wow, you know this. Oh, this is so cool. Oh my god. I didn't know I would come across a call across seas and I'll be discussing this song, but it's awesome.
Great, yeah.
Really
That's
cool.
me.
Lovely.
I work a lot with Indian colleagues and I really respect them. So we had a lot of time bonding and watching Bollywood movies.
Wow, nice. And Indian people are letting you know about that song to relate with you. I can't just get over this song. It's really popular. I knew that the song is popular. The name has suddenly started to grow up. But it's lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much, Abhidai.
Today I'm honored to host Sheila Torrico, a noted advocate of GenAI and data products. She has been a founding member of the data product leadership community as well as donned multiple hats as project manager, evangelist, and consultant at noted companies such as Google, VMware, Kintsugi, Capgemini, and more. Currently, she is serving as the AI and data technical manager at MyLife. And thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure, to be here, and I'm excited that you reached out to me. And after listening to, my credentials, I don't believe it. I go where I can have fun and where I can add value, and I can help connect, the tech teams with the non-technical teams with the business, so they can be all aligned and figure it out. What is the best approach, and what should be the use cases to actually, I don't know how to put it, because for me it's like an exciting topic. So it's basically, what are those use cases that are in people's or in the business mindset about what we need to do, what makes me hard, what makes move the needle for the business.
That's so
I like
generous of
to
you.
help them figure out them and help them chase them.
Yeah, definitely. And as we go through your LinkedIn profile as well, you share quite a lot of stuff which is actually valuable for the community. So it is lovely. I'll recommend all of the guys to follow Sheila on LinkedIn. She is very active and she continuously posts really important stuff. Catch up with you there.
Thank you so much.
So to get started, if you could talk a little bit about your recent projects and the work you have been doing.
Totally. So just to give you an overview, I wouldn't say this is like very, recent, but as a consultant, I got exposed a lot into different functions and the pain points that these customers or clients, and for me, they were like my team members, they were going through. And one of them that kept resonating was data. They were like, we do have all this data. What we can do with the data to actually make informed decisions or improve certain processes that they had in mind.
Yeah.
And it was something that really kept into my mind. And I took a sabbatical to become a data scientist, to train myself as a data scientist to also understand, what is going on the backside, right? I'm an engineer, but still, because I didn't do engineering for a long time and I did my MBA, it was important for me to go back into my roots, undoes that skills, that problem solving, and understand, what is making data science so special? Why people want to go into data science to be able to use data and use data to make informed decisions and help business leverage that.
Yeah.
So I did that for almost a year with a springboard, and it was interesting to have that perspective. And something that really called my attention was the fact that besides the structured data, you also had unstructured data, and not a lot of people were talking about it. And I put myself full into NLP mode.
Nice.
My projects were like about NLP, and it was also trying to come with different use cases that people didn't think about, how it could actually relate to the data science community, but also to the business community. For example, I did a project where it was trying to use clustering as a very as a tool, just because it's simple and it's very simplistic in a way, but it helps you understand, where maybe the different feedback from your customer was going to be
Mhm.
organized. Where should it belong to? Like, see the model, right? Telling me, hey, maybe we can classify this customer feedback as product. Maybe this is customer feedback that should go into, kudos to the team, or they're having complaints and
Mhm.
safety.
Yeah.
And it was for me, I think that was my main goal. It was to be able to connect the dots from the data science work that the team is doing into the actual impact that can be done, that
Mhm.
it has on the business, right?
Yeah.
And when we talk about the business, we talk about business trying to move the needle. So in
Mhm.
my last job, when I was at Kintsugi, it was the product that they are trying to build, and I think it has a lot of potential, is using the voice, using a speech
Mhm.
to be able to screen if a person is depressed or not,
Wow.
using like biomarkers.
Nice.
And the job that I had there was, besides learning from my talented team of ML engineers, it was also helping them get out of the rabbit hole of,
Mhm.
I'm always chasing this great idea, I'm chasing this great experiment, and let's see what we can do with it, right? But
Mhm.
no, 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 I need more time. I need to be able to continue to focus.
Mhm.
So I had to put myself into, it's like, I'm an advocate for you guys. I'm here to help you.
Mhm.
So you
Yeah.
can continue to do what you do best, but also help me to explain to the business, what are you guys working on? What are you accomplishing? This shouldn't be something kept in a vacuum. And with the
Mhm.
help of my engineering manager, I ended up spearheading and implementing an experimentation program.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, to ensure that the machine learning engineers were continue to work in what they do best, which is experimenting, testing hypotheses, seeing how we can improve the product or some of
Mhm.
the features,
Mhm.
but also help the business achieve the goal of a faster product innovation,
Mhm.
because we needed to launch models, the brain, as I call them, into the B2B product that was
Yeah.
being used
Yes.
by some of these healthcare companies to try to screen this
Mhm.
type of diseases, like especially anxiety, but also depression.
Nice. And that actually is a real problem where people need help, but they couldn't. And it's also a communication barrier which they cannot cross. So this idea really has some value, and thank you for shedding light on it.
Yeah, totally. I think, as you can see, I was really excited about that type of the job that I was doing there, helping the ML team, learning
Hmm.
from them,
Hmm.
because what I got exposed, right, was something different. It was another type of unstructured data, and in this case, we're talking about speech.
Yes.
And speech has different features. It has different
Hmm.
variables, different ways that you can
Yeah.
use it to be able to feed into your model. So I will be working with a team, a small but mighty team, to ensure that the features that they consider, we have someone who is able to put those together, the data set, and send
Hmm.
those through the pipeline so they can start experimenting.
Yes, absolutely. It's a tough task, but a really interesting one, and it can create really good impact. So, with this, we move on to the second question. So, it's an interesting one. Given data products are a relatively new aspect of the data stack, can you share a few interesting implementation stories from your experience in the data product leadership community?
Yes, so as you know, in the data product leadership community, we're like a lot of data nerds, or
Mm-hmm.
we're fascinated about what products can be done. And I think before you can even start about the implementations, I can tell you, some of the projects that didn't go that well because people were missing a very important concept, which was the definition of what a data product is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We try and we work with a lot of businesses that we understand they have pains. They are trying to see how they can solve them by using the data that they have accumulated or stored for years in their databases or data lakes.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how you can use that data and help them get the best result and be able to define what success looks like.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
The question is, what is a data product? Who owns the data product before
Hmm.
you can even start through
Hmm.
that journey? And I think some of the cases where I was working with the clients, we were with a team, and we will go and say, first we need to do a data assessment of
Hmm.
all the historical data that you have, and then also do an assessment of your whole infrastructure and
Hmm.
architecture.
Yes.
right? And I think that's the piece that a lot of these clients are trying to glue together with what
Mm.
the work that the data engineering team is doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you read, but there is this great, um, I think the actual definition from Brian O'Neill about what
Mm.
is a data product. And I think
Yes.
it's very powerful because people don't see or they don't think that data as more like it is something that is providing value and is
Mm.
going to be used by users,
Mhm. Yes.
right? And that is very important. That's the criteria that I use in this type of work that I'm doing right now with my life to be able to categorize and say, do we have a data product or not, and how we can
Mm.
manage. But before we can even get there, right, think about where all this data is coming from,
Mm.
right? You have all these different data sources,
Mm.
and you do have teams trying to work together and ensuring that you can put everything in just one place,
Mm.
and then they're going to be able to come and get it out. Not always for machine learning projects or
Mm.
data initiatives or data science initiatives. They can be also for data analytics. And there has to be a very, you know, clear understanding about what use case you're trying to use this data for, because then it's
Yeah.
going to help you understand the type of transformation or refinement that your data asset needs to go through.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right. And something that I really like from the book, also from the data engineering, I do have it, like the fundamentals of data engineering from Joey Raith. And I had the
Yes.
pleasure of meeting him. It was talking about, those foundational pieces. What are those practices that you need to put in place to be able to have
Mm.
a foundation that is going to allow you to build on top of it, and you can
Mm.
make sure that you have this data as a data asset, and then your
Mm.
data assets can transform, can be refined into what we call a data product.
Yeah.
And as I was talking with him and another data engineer that I know, which is Sarah Flores, we were talking about, the who owns this? Who owns this piece?
Mm.
Is
Yeah.
that going to be the data engineering?
Mm.
Is that going to be under the realm of your data scientist,
Yeah.
your product manager? And that's something that we kept, also discussing with Brian O'Neill, and we ended up
Mm.
talking about that a data product manager should be the person that needs to own and manage this data
Yes.
product,
Mm. Definitely.
right? It's different because the work that we do have, and this is something that I had a time, advocating with my different customers,
Mm.
was about the idea about how to treat data as a business asset.
Mm.
What are some
Yes.
of those guidelines that we need to put together? I know I'm not answering, your question completely about how to implement that, but
Yes.
I think before you can even try to do an implementation, it is very important that you take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
You work with the business to understand what success looks like for them.
Yes. Yes.
What are those use cases? But
Mm.
then also have, the be able to speak up and say, let's talk about this. Let's see if
Mm.
we need to do a data assessment first, because
Yes.
I value their time, I value their expertise as
Mm.
much as I value the time and expertise from my team,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm trying to set them for success, both.
Mm. Yes.
I'm not going to be able to say, hey, business, we are going to deliver this outcome
Mm.
without checking with
Mm.
my make it happen team.
Yes.
They need to be present. I need to be able to explain,
Mm.
because at the end of the day, when they can have like different definitions of success,
Mm.
but you need
Yes.
to be able to align. And when people ask me, what is your role in all this type of engagements, I'm like, yes, I am a program manager. I can
Mm.
also put into my hat of a product manager,
Mm.
but at the end, I'm just, someone who is a connector
Mm.
with
Yes.
the business and the tech teams to ensure that the
Mm.
ideas that they have, they're going to be flowing
Yes.
without so much miscommunication from one side to the other one, and they're able to access.
Yeah. And I love that you started with defining what a data product should be. I'm glad I asked that. Lovely.
Thank you so
So
much.
it's about how has your experience as a consultant who is much closer to business decisions shaped your approach to the data stack?
Well, believe it or not, because I trained myself, as a data scientist, I'm an engineer, but I also got the opportunity to do an MBA.
Hmm.
I don't feel that I'm closer to one side or the other one. I'm
Yeah.
trying to be more like a connector and ensuring that the ideas are flowing,
Mm.
and also ensuring that if it is like, in a way, you can say that one of the things from program management is like to be able to foresee risks,
Mhm.
right? And because of the experience that I have in the business and also with the data science team, I'm able to put those together. I'm able to put like a list of potential risks that
Mm.
the team hasn't think about it
Yes.
or they haven't considered. And that also includes, I get to work with the business team to also put together that risk register from their perspective and
Mm.
align that with the risk register that the make it happen teams have. And I think that's a
Yes.
very impactful way for me to be able to communicate with them at
Mm.
the same, trying to do that at the same level, to be a translator for the technical team.
Mm.
And I work with them in a way that I'm trying to explain them,
Mm.
this is not just an output.
Mhm.
Let's think about how this output is going to help the business achieve an outcome that they have in place.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yes.
you have, your client that they want to start selling more cars, right? And they
Mm.
want to put like a smart brain into a product and say, show me how to sell more cars,
Yes.
right? But when
Mm.
we look into the output that we are receiving from my make it happen team is going to be your output is that you got accuracy or sensitivity, at a certain percentage.
Mhm.
So how do I going to explain that to the business?
Mm.
That's,
Yes.
that is very important. So I work with the make it happen teams to ensure that I understand that piece. And then I explain them, if we have this case,
Mm.
this output, then how you think is going to impact this outcome
Mm.
of the business trying to
Yes. Mm.
sell more cars. And they will give me the explanations and we will work with a team to
Mm.
come with a or draft this type of communication, and I will go back to the business and explain, this is
Mm.
what we are achieving. This is what is going to be looking into the roadmap that we have in place.
Yeah. And it also is very important because a potential win comes from the potential risk. And identifying as the first thing is really important because you need to know what you are going into. So, very important how you do that.
Exactly. And it's also the other piece about, when I'm talking about this type of research registers, something that I always like to bring in or raise in these conversations is, let's talk about, the most important thing.
Mhm.
In order to be able to achieve any of these great ideas or use cases, you need data,
Yes.
right? And you request certain data. And a
Mhm.
big risk is maybe that the data that you want is not going to be available.
Yes. Yeah.
So how you manage that, right? You need to be able to talk with the business and say, okay,
Mhm.
so we do have internal data that is being produced,
Mhm.
but we also think, that we need to get data from an outside vendor.
Mhm.
So when you were like actually spearheading business that
Mhm.
type of decision or type that request, and like, yes, we want to be able to use, industry
Mhm.
data. We want to be able to incorporate that. So it's like, yes, we can do that, but we need to start looking and talking with the
Mhm.
vendors who are providing you this data source to be able to unify it and see if
Mhm.
it makes sense to consume it or not, right?
Yes. So data governance is becoming increasingly important. How do you recommend data governance frameworks are not just set in place, but are also truly effective?
Well, I just came back from the AI conference
Yes.
that was hosted last week.
Hmm.
And yes, data governance has been the topic, one of the key topics that was being, discussed and in the different meetups. And it was understanding, what are the standards or the guardrails that you need to put in place,
Mhm.
right? And before even jumping into AI governance, we need to talk about what are some of those guardrails that is going to help you create the foundations for your data that then it can be scalable.
Mhm. Yeah.
So they're not like a one size fits all framework. This is
Mhm.
something that is still, is being discussed. But I will recommend you to do like a search about, but depending on the use case that you have, what it makes more sense. Because at the end of the day, every company, they know better the tool stack that they have, they know the
Mhm.
architecture, they know the resources.
Yes.
But it's always talking about, what are some of those key elements that you need to safeguard? What are those key elements that you think are going to help you build
Mhm.
that foundation?
Yes.
And that is that is going to be a big piece of your data governance
Hmm.
structure. But something that I want to mention is not so much about the framework for data
Hmm.
governance. It's a lot of about the people.
Hmm.
People are going to be the biggest advocates for that data governance, and you need to be
Yes.
able to select who are they
Hmm. Hmm.
and work with them to become your governance and your data governance ambassadors in a way,
Yes. Yes. And
right? Because
I.
they're really like,
Hmm.
hey, I'm seeing that you're putting together this, you're trying to get this data, and we get a new source, it needs to go into the data lake.
Hmm.
And did you follow the standards for the
Yes.
ingestion? Did you
Yes.
follow the standards so it can actually be, transform and it is not going to become anymore, even though if it is raw data, like you have to be a way that you can be able to identify this raw
Hmm.
data
Hmm.
and it has to meet certain standards, particularly for the security piece. That is really important now.
Yes, and it also is a part that governance is not just about stopping the wrong people from going in, but it is also about letting the right ones go through. And most of the times it has happened that the right people are not getting the access to the data. It is jumbled up into the requests, but yeah, it is as it is, so it needs to be solved. Yeah.
Yes, and in order to make this happen, and you're right in that comment about it's not so much about people, not getting access into the data,
Hmm.
but it's also about, how you're going to provide access to the right person.
Yes.
And never forget about the human in the loop because
Hmm.
there are many frameworks, but at the end of the day, the best enforcer is going to be your data governance ambassador.
You have a broad intersection with multiple organizational roles as a project manager. So, could you paint a picture of the different roles relevant to the enterprise data stack and how they interrelate?
Oh, yeah. It was like it is a difficult question
Hmm.
because something that it depends a lot on where is this located,
Hmm.
right? If you're talking about startups,
Mhm.
you have to understand that it's not just going to be one person doing one role, but you need
Hmm.
to be flexible and adaptable to do multiple roles,
Hmm. Yes.
right? So you will have, in this particular situation, people that are going to be helping you with your data is going to be,
Hmm.
or who need to have this data access is you. Yes, you have your data engineers, you also have the machine learning engineers,
Hmm.
and guess who else can be in that mix?
Yes. And that.
It can also be your product manager
Hmm.
or even the program manager, because we need to be able to do like different roles and positions,
Hmm.
right? And you need to be able to perform on that as well. Now, when you go more into a more enterprise setting,
Hmm.
you do have, specific roles that need to be fulfilled. So
Hmm.
definitely you have your data architect
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
That is the person that is going to give you the blueprint for putting together that amazing tooling and infrastructure that you need in order to scale
Hmm.
and move through the data maturity level. Now, second, right, you are going to have your data engineers.
Hmm.
And those are like the amazing people who are not just the people who are going to ensure that your data is collected correctly, it goes into the data, into the
Hmm.
right data lake, but they're also going to be the ones who are going to be able to transform and refine that data into something
Yes.
that is going to be useful or
Hmm.
do that cleaning for your data science
Hmm.
teams.
Yes.
Right, then you have your data science teams who are going to be the people that are going to ensure that they test the different hypotheses, they build the models.
Hmm.
Now, in the case that you have the opportunity to deploy now the model, then you start working with the machine learning engineers.
Yes.
So the way that I will and then I can go on and on because I think everybody is going to touch on the data, but those will be the main roles that I think.
Hmm.
But something that I want to mention too is that you need to think about who are, the downstream stakeholders of
Hmm.
this data, right?
Hmm.
But also who are the ones producing this data.
Hmm.
Sometimes we forget about the upstream stakeholders in this situation.
Yes. That's really very precise, and how you painted the journey was beautiful. I think most organizations could really view it from another point of view, because, as you mentioned, it is rarely visible, the stakeholder part, as it's mostly not considered. And this ideology, this story will actually help them go through the journey in the correct manner. Thank you for so much for this answer. What core skills and tools are pivotal, you would say, and in the analytics stack specifically?
Well, in this situation, I'm not a big fan of recommending tools and stacks because those
Right.
change a lot. But what I want to emphasize is that you need to understand and be very familiar with the core concepts. I think that is
Hmm.
going to be one of the key skills that you need to master.
Yes.
Be able to become either, to go into either route. You want to go
Hmm.
into the data analytics, or you want to become more like a data scientist, you work with the or become a data engineering.
Hmm.
But it's ensure that for whatever journey that you're trying to go, understand what are those basics or fundamental knowledge.
Hmm.
So, for example, for me, like definitely, the Brian O'Neill and the TPLC community, they have been key when I'm talking about data.
Hmm.
Then, when I'm talking about more about what is data engineering or those fundamentals, like the book from Joy
Hmm.
is my
Yeah.
one of the books that I go to. And last but not least, I like to read a lot of the posts that you get from Sarah Flores. She's
Hmm.
like a super data engineer, and she has gone through the whole, journey from from starting as a data scientist, now becoming a data engineer.
Nice.
Now tools, and I'm going back. It's like what
Hmm.
are those basic or foundational skills that anyone should know?
Yeah.
Definitely, SQL. For
Hmm.
anything that you have is SQL.
Hmm.
Be very familiar with it. Be understand, what are those basics, your left joins,
Hmm.
your words, your order.
Hmm.
Build on those, and then you can always go on top of that.
Hmm.
And then Python. Python,
Hmm.
I think, is one of the tools that you need to master as a data scientist
Yes.
in order to do your data analysis and start looking into what are some of these results that you get from
Hmm.
running your models.
Yes. And it will always be helpful because you will be studying more about the industry, the domain, rather than just getting into one role. So this will make you eligible in also communicating with other roles which you are not currently. So a really valuable insight as to how you grow. And this also bridges us to the next question, which is uh, about these tools itself. So when exploring these new tools, how can data developers assess the tool's fitness for their projects? Also, could you share an example of a recent tool you evaluated to and your decision making process behind it?
Yes. So right now, and this is not like a plug for any of these tools, but something that I have been curious for this longest time since Gen AI came is how you can evaluate LLMs,
Hmm.
right? What is the best way to do a data evaluate or like evaluate the results of your LLM?
Hmm.
And it is the way that Gen AI or these LLM models are built are
Hmm.
very different to the traditional ML.
Hmm. Yes.
So I have been looking into tools that are being developed by Arise, like especially the Phoenix tool that
Okay.
allows you to do those type of evaluations on the outputs of your models, like
Hmm.
in real time.
Hmm.
And I think for me, being an advocate or how to use data,
Hmm.
for decision making, I'm also looking into a tool that is user friendly and understands the user journeys from the
Hmm.
people that are going to be playing with it and
Hmm.
having, and I don't know if you know, but you do have Brian O'Neill, and he's like very good in the intersection of AI, right,
Yeah.
and data and product management,
Hmm.
and most importantly UX.
Hmm.
So whenever we're talking about these different data products, we're looking also into how we incorporate the UX piece there,
Hmm.
because a data, you can build a great product, a great data product, but if it is a product that is not being used, then it's not that great. So
Yes,
you need to
absolutely.
put together, those UX frameworks needs to be incorporated there.
Yes.
So when I'm looking into those type of tools, that's, I also do that particular criteria. It's like, what
Hmm.
is the UX UI that I
Hmm.
have from there? Does it consider like my user journey?
Hmm. Yes.
Because if I'm going to be showing this to my team, right?
Hmm.
I have my ML team that for them is definitely, they don't care so much about the UX piece, but they want to
Hmm.
be able to do what they need to, like
Hmm.
run faster. I don't have a lot of latency, speed, check, check, check,
Hmm.
encryption, security,
Yes.
golden. But then when you have to show this
Hmm.
to your business team, the ones who are like, we want to see what you guys are building and how it is the progress towards our
Yes.
goal, then having a tool that is going to allow them to be like, it's explainable, it's easy to understand and see, they're going to be like, yeah, this is more interesting. Yes, I can see how the results are going.
Yes.
So that's one. Then
Mhm.
the other tools that I'm curious and I use, for the,
Mhm.
in a way, for the more classical ML, if you want to call it, it'll
Mhm.
be weights and biases. Like they have a really good, interface that you can actually see and keep track of the different experiments that the team is doing. And
Mhm.
uh, the graph functionality is very good.
Nice. And I
So,
really like, yeah,
mhm,
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
saying not to sell, right? Not to be like
Yeah.
a plug for any of these products, but I think it depends a lot in in my situation is who is going to be my audience, who wants
Hmm.
to be who is going to ask me for references or
Hmm.
hey Sheila, show me how this is going to work,
Hmm.
how you're
Yes.
using this evaluation.
Yeah.
Or I have to explain something to the team and I have to get into weights and biases and see, what are some of the graphs, what
Hmm.
were the results from the experiment in terms of did we did we achieve the accuracy that we wanted with experiment
Hmm.
one, two, three?
Hmm.
So it has to be something very visual, at
Hmm.
least for me.
Yes, absolutely. And also keeping the user in the center of the journey is really important. Not everyone talks or speaks in the same language. So you need to be able to communicate and give a user experience in such a manner that it is valuable and they can actually see the value. So definitely user experience on the core side, I really like it. Given that the Snowflake and DBT stack is deeply embedded in the data developers day to day, what are some of the recurrent challenges you see in it, and how can data developers overcome these challenges?
And again, I'm going to refer like, what are the basics? What are you trying to accomplish with those tools?
Yeah.
Right? I think it's very important that you have a clear perspective on that
Hmm.
because Snowflake has great capabilities. It's very easy. You can connect. DBT also has, good pros.
Hmm.
But at the same time, right, it has good functionalities. But at the end, it's like you as a developer, once you work with your team and you understand what is that you're trying to accomplish, what is that particular, you know, what is my target? I always try to say, what is this finish line for me and how I'm going to be able to get through it,
Hmm.
right? And it's going to be a mix of knowledge,
Hmm.
your basic foundations, your skills, and
Hmm.
also the tooling.
Hmm. Yes, it's going to be a Venn diagram with these three things, and that's actually really easy to look at. If we move technology from the conversation, what factors would you consider important for boosting decision making and growth in the business functions?
Well, for the business function, right, if you're trying to boost growth, you have to define what is growth for
Mhm.
them. What are they trying to accomplish?
Mhm.
Are they looking to, to have a product that is going to give them faster innovation, faster
Mhm.
product innovation? And let's not go into the chasm of let's go back and see how we can improve user adoption.
Yes, truly, a team needs to go through that. And
It needs to go through that, but what I'm trying to say is like we need to be able to think outside of the box of always
hmm,
trying to say we want something that is going to increase, we want growth because we want to increase user adoption.
hmm,
So maybe that's not the right metric or it's not the
hmm,
right outcome that you want to get from your initiatives.
yes,
So it's like thinking outside the box and say, I want to boost growth, yes, but
hmm,
what?
yes.
Right?
Why? What are the top three aspects you believe are lacking in the current data stack, which makes the day-to-day of analytics engineers challenging?
Wow, I can give you like 100
Wow, nice.
because we do have, everybody has like its own version. But I
Hmm,
think I will go and say, right now for the data stack, we are like lacking clear data governance
hmm,
standards or
yeah,
practices.
hmm,
Like let's start building, for the foundational piece.
hmm,
Second, let's talk about data security too.
hmm,
I know it's like a topic that we keep, mentioning that yes, we do have data security, we have that in place.
hmm,
It has to be like something that we need to think a little more and say what else we can do to improve the data
yes,
security
yeah,
that we have right now.
hmm,
And the third one will always be lack of data.
Hmm.
last but not
Yes.
least,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
As we are continuing to this path of using data to be able to either, make decisions or trying to be more productive,
Hmm. Yeah.
depending on your use case, we are kind of running out of data. So the question is how you're going to be able to get more clean data or more data that your machine or your model
Hmm.
hasn't seen yet.
Hmm, absolutely. The community is abuzz with the semantic and logical models as the future of data modeling. And there's even talk of semantic data products, which Modern Data 101 has also been advocating. So, what are your thoughts on this approach?
I think in this particular situation, let's talk about again, what is the definition of data product
Hmm.
and what does it mean semantic
Hmm.
for the organization that you belong to?
Hmm.
So what I'm trying to say here is like we're going to the place that we're coming out with solutions already, but
Hmm.
we haven't been able to step back and talk with the rest of the community and agree what is that what are those definitions? What do we mean by data product? What do we mean by a
Hmm.
semantic data product?
Yes. And in your knowledge, what does a semantic layer mean, just in a short?
Ooh, that'll be a long one. So I will pass for the next opportunity
Okay, cool. Not a
because I'm
problem.
also building, I'm coming and analyzing based on what is going on right now
Hmm.
with different concepts and definitions going on, trying to come with one that is like as simple as the one from
Hmm.
Brian O'Neill on data products.
Absolutely. We'll wait for you on that one. As the data stack develops, do you see it becoming easier to understand the impact of analytics engineers or analysts on key business KPIs like ROI or ARR, and how?
Yes, at this point, we are getting to there
Hmm.
because now, as we are talking more with the business has been aware of, at least the ones that I have been working on. They already had like a couple of AI or data initiatives under their belt. They implemented either from putting self-service analytics to putting or coming, with an intelligent brain, just
Hmm.
to give you an example, or incorporating that into their product. So they're
Hmm.
already those ROIs
Hmm.
that they
Lovely.
already put there. And they're like, in some cases, the business is making their ROIs as their own
Hmm.
because they could be like, oh, or in this particular KPI is going to be, I want my model to be 75% accuracy, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something that the business is already, you know, advocating and they're okay with running with it and helping because they understand that's a better metric or a better KPI that also the
Hmm.
data science team is going to have an understanding.
Yes, absolutely. The past 2 years have seen a lot of talk on these two topics. Have data catalogs made the lives of analytics personas simpler in terms of cutting down the overwhelm of the downstream requests?
In a way, they have done that, but
Hmm.
it also depends, right? If you had a good human in the loop that was able to get that information or that tribal knowledge from those subject matter experts that have been working on the data domain without having a data catalog,
Hmm.
like they're as powerful as the ones that we have right now.
Hmm.
So if you had like those humans in the loop and they were there and they were with you when you were defining those requirements, what needed to be included, or actually, you know, it's like you're working with clay, you're trying to put
Hmm.
together, what is the shape
Yes.
that you want this model or this piece to look like.
Hmm.
Yes, it made like life much easier.
Lovely. And also, very interestingly, I also wanted to ask you this question. By the time, one investment makes sense, a new technology comes to the space, demanding more dollars. How can we future-proof data infrastructure to dynamic tech shifts?
Well, I wouldn't say that you can actually, you're not going to put like a bulletproof into your data,
Hmm.
right, for all these different texts. But it's going back and saying, I'm working with my right stakeholders. I'm working with my chief data
Hmm.
officer.
Yeah.
I'm working also with the chief, CTO, for example, and then I'm working with my business.
Hmm.
And all of us, we agree what needs to be done to be able to build this standard and foundational architecture,
Yeah. And
right? And I think that is key
hmm.
because if you have some new tech that is
Mhm.
coming, new technology,
Mhm.
the fact that you have something that is like already like in a modular way
Mhm.
is like you already put this foundation, you can always scale it up to be able to absorb.
Yeah.
But my word of caution is just because it's new and shiny doesn't mean that it's good for you. So you
Mhm.
always need to do your that due diligence to understand if it makes sense or not to invest in this new technology and incorporate it into your current stack or architecture.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Given you are a founding member of a data product community, how have you seen the space shift and shape into what it is today?
You know what? I will have to say that there is still a lot of work to be done.
Hmm.
But the fact that being part of the DPLC has given me exposure to how people around the world is looking and you thinking about data,
Hmm.
I think it has made a lot of impact,
Lovely.
especially because you are able to see, like in with people that we have from the UK,
Hmm.
in where they are within the data maturity level,
Hmm.
where they are within their journey, and how they're like putting together or using data as a product.
Hmm. Yes.
Or most importantly, they are starting to think about data products.
Hmm.
And the
Yes.
same, when you go to Australia or you're talking with your team members in India, it's
Hmm.
very interesting that it's not so much about the advancement
Hmm.
of the different tools or the different concepts, but it's being able that all of us can we speak in the same language. We
Hmm.
all have like that same definition in place. And that is, I think, very important. That is like the standard, right? That
Yes.
you're going to be able to build anything else on top of it. And the discussions that we have in the DPLC community are very engaging. And definitely, like, if people are, interested, they should look into the webinars that Brian O'Neill does.
Hmm, yes, and always it's the best step to come on the same page and then build onwards. So lovely. If people are listening to this, do go and check out T. O'Neill's podcast, webinars, and also the information about Sheila's community. Really valuable. How would a typical analytics engineer understand or use data products?
According to me,
Mhm.
let's be very honest with this one. And I think is in order to do this, how to use the data product, you need to be work alongside with your data product manager.
Mhm.
This person is going to be able to guide you and show you,
Mhm.
why this data product makes sense because you do have users that are willing to use it,
Mhm.
but they're also willing to give you something out of value to be able to
Mhm.
access that information, to access that data product.
Yes.
And when you're talking with your data analytics team, you as a data analytics or the data engineer, you need to be able to understand what is that use case, yes,
Mhm.
what is the stack,
Mhm.
but is most importantly, you need to talk with this owner, with this
Mhm.
product manager.
Yes. And also, it also makes me curious, what details would a data engineer look for in a good data product?
Oh, which details?
Hmm.
Well, you know that the data engineer is the person that is helping us put all these data products together, right?
Hmm.
They're like
Yeah.
the ones, or it's not always like the data, like the data engineer is that glue. He's like, I have all this data, I'm able to transform it, I'm able to do, I'm going to clean it, make it a clean data that I'm going to pass on, and now it's a data asset, as
Hmm.
an asset that the business considers
Hmm.
and says, yes, we can use that. And then I start working and refining, and then I can start putting together like a data product.
Hmm. Lovely.
So now, if you think about it, there's going to be a data product that could be just a self-service dashboard,
Hmm. Yes.
right?
Hmm.
And yes, there are organizations you can have multiple of them, and not always are being used.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
maybe you can just talk with the user and understand:
Hmm.
is this serving the purpose? Do you have access to the right data or the
Yes.
data that you're looking for to use? And they will be like, not really, like the
Hmm.
data is not what I'm expecting. So it's to it's to try to have those conversations there.
Yes.
Now, when we're talking more about like an ML product or an AI product,
Hmm.
the main customer for this is
Hmm.
going to be your ML team,
Hmm. Yes.
because it is very important that you start working with them to refine those
Hmm.
outputs and make them and pass that criteria to say this is like a data product.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. And that makes a lot of sense because there are many people involved in the chain. So if they need to understand what context it is, sit with your data product manager. Beware, sit with him or her. What would be the best approach to data product consumption that benefits both data consumers and the data engineering teams?
Well, we need to go and look again into, I'm always the person that tries to step back before giving you the whole answer or
Hmm,
like what is going to be that vision, right?
hmm,
So to be able to get there, we need to look into what is the next logical step here.
hmm,
So if you're talking about, how to build or improve this data product,
hmm,
unless I got the question wrong.
hmm. No, no, it's right. You got it right.
So in order to do that, right,
Hmm,
you need to be able to understand, work with the product manager because if it is an external product,
hmm,
that is something that your users are, already in the world,
hmm,
like it's launch and they're starting to look like.
hmm,
Try to work with your product manager
hmm,
and see if he can share with you some of the interview notes
hmm,
that from the feedback that he's getting from
hmm.
those users.
Yes.
Try to be able to be part of those interviews. You don't always have to join, but if you have the opportunity to do that or read the
Hmm,
notes and then try to see, does this feedback make sense? How can I incorporate this feedback into my own work when I'm doing this before,
yeah, yeah.
right? As a data engineer.
Hmm,
Now, the next step is if it is more like an internal product, data product that it is within your own
hmm,
company,
hmm,
then you have the flexibility and it's easy for you to go and look and
hmm,
just chat with the users. It doesn't
hmm,
have to be like a very, prescriptive or already scripted interview
hmm,
questions questionnaire, but it's going to be mostly like, hey, what do you think about
yeah.
this data product?
Hmm,
Is it meeting your expectations? What do you
hmm,
think is missing there?
hmm,
Just to get feedback. I think for all the different, you know, projects and engagements that I work with or
hmm,
initiatives in this case,
hmm,
it for me like the best has been always ask my users for feedback.
hmm,
I'm not asking, I'm not I know that the product is not a perfect in some situations,
hmm,
if you go back into the software
hmm.
times when you were developing a software product, right? You had your UATs
Yes.
and you learn a lot from in those UAT sessions from the users and their perspectives about
Hmm,
what they thought about this functionality,
hmm,
what they thought about this button. It's like it's little nuances, or maybe it's not the big thing because it's not a big product or a big
hmm,
feature, but are those details that makes you think about, how can I improve the next iteration? Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you want to improve the usability. You want your
hmm.
users to be more active
Yes.
and using your tool. You don't want to be another dashboard that is going to sit there, bookmark, and nobody goes and sees it.
Hmm. Yes, it's more about bridging the gap between the two people who aren't able to communicate and understanding both perspectives because both are involved. Building data products might be easy by the virtue of the product approach. The challenge might be adoption, where users are familiar with traditional processes. So, what's your suggestion to boost adoption?
Well, easiest way could be I offer them like a $50 gift card,
Oh, nice.
right? And they will just go and use it,
Wow, nice.
right?
But
But the
yeah.
but the key question here is if I want to increase that adoption,
Hmm.
I think one of the first things you have to do, and I do, is again, going back into what I mentioned, is that you have to go and be with the person, with the user, and understand those pain points that
Hmm.
he or she is going through
Hmm.
when he's trying to use your product,
Hmm. Yes.
right? And in order to do this, you don't have to wait until you deliver like a full functional
Hmm. Yes.
product.
Hmm.
Go ahead. Don't be afraid. Just launch your proof of concept. As long
Hmm.
as it is functional,
Hmm.
go ahead and do it because the more feedback that you can get from your users
Hmm.
is going to help you much better to increase and see what are the areas that you need to focus in order to improve that adoption.
Hmm. Yes. It need not be a perfect conversation, but it still is a valuable conversation.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to ask for that feedback and don't be, you know, take it with a grain of salt, yes,
Mhm.
but then
Yeah.
at the end you're going to get a spoonful of sugar once you get your information correct and you're going to see that your product is the one that is not just being bookmarked, but as people going and looking and
Hmm.
seeing, I know that this person is responding to my answers. He comes or she comes and asks my questions, so I can see, that my feedback is valuable
Hmm.
and is being used to improve something that is going to make my life much easier.
Yes, absolutely. What are your go-to resources or communities for staying updated on the latest developments in analytics tools and technologies?
For me, I'm going to say that at least my perspective is I wouldn't go and say like all communities are the same, but definitely the DPLC community because we're talking about the basics and the foundations, in this
Hmm.
case, data,
Hmm. Truly.
right? That's one. The second that I is like mostly people that I follow through LinkedIn and they have
Hmm.
really good information and they do have hands-on experience.
Hmm.
We do have Sarah Flores
Hmm.
and then Joy Race.
Hmm.
Then we also have Chad Anderson. He's also very good talking about data contracts and how
Contracts.
to, yes,
Hmm.
right, which goes hand in hand with your data governance.
Hmm.
Then I definitely follow Gabriela de
Hmm.
Queiroz.
Okay.
She's one of the top data scientists that you have in Microsoft.
Hmm.
And she has a different perspective because she has worked, at that enterprise level and she has worked with a startup. So,
Hmm.
and she knows mostly a lot of AI,
Oh,
like
nice.
the use cases and
Hmm.
how that can impact your bottom line, if you want to
Hmm.
call it like that in the business. So it has been a very, I do like a mix,
Hmm. Like.
but I always go into those, foundational books first
Hmm.
also.
Yes.
So there's
Yeah.
like a foundational book about data engineering. There is
Hmm.
also a foundational book about machine learning engineering, data science.
Hmm.
But if I also want to understand more about, what is happening with the governance, it's a very good governance group
Hmm.
that I don't have, I just joined, I heard about it, and so
Hmm.
far, like the insights are very great.
Okay.
But if you also have questions about more, what is data science itself? What are some of those different applications and
Hmm.
trying to see what is happening with upcoming policies?
Hmm.
I follow Nick Vidion.
Hmm. Okay. Nice. Make sure people you go and check out all these people that Sheila just mentioned because she herself writes and also mentions a lot of these people and their work on her LinkedIn. So really valuable insights you can get started and about the basics. Nothing too fancy which you cannot understand, but writing all these things is not easy and these people have gone through their research. Really good people. So, thank you for being with me, Sheila. We are now finally into the chill zone. So, I want now to meet the real Sheila Torrico. So, first question, how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance while keeping up the fun at work?
Well, that's not going to be an easy one to answer, but I will have to say is it depends on the team that you are
Hmm.
with and you're working with them and you're going to be able to mimic that and
Hmm.
incorporate that into your routine. But one of my key things is being able to put out a boundary. And I don't know if you recall this, right? But there's certain times that, yes, there's something so exciting that you want to work on.
Hmm.
And you're like, you already know your plate is already full. But
Hmm.
because there's this new thing that you really want to work on, you just jump and say, hey, give it to me. I want to work on that project. So you kind
Yeah.
of overstretch yourself.
Hmm.
And in a way, as a project manager and program manager, I understood that I do have limited capacity.
Hmm. Yes, true.
It is, I do have limited capacity. So in order to have that work-life balance, I love what I do at work. I love learning with data. I love working with my ML teams, data science team.
Hmm.
But I also try to say, when I get to this 90% of my capacity being full,
Hmm.
that's when I have to stop and say, as much as I would like to jump into the next project or help in this new endeavor, I say
Hmm.
no.
Yes.
Because there's always something else that is going to happen and you will need that
Hmm.
10%.
Yes, absolutely. Keeping the buffer is every time one of the most important things. Otherwise, it's a burnout and we won't see it coming our way. It just jumps, creeps right in. So, yes. Also, some recent feel-good moments, keeping you joyful and motivated at the moment.
I will have to say, like learning. I'm a lifelong learner, so there's always something new that I can learn.
Mhm.
and trying to filter what I want to learn. That's the difficult piece. But that feel good moment, for example, when I was in the AI conference
Ah,
last
yeah.
week, and it was like that aha moment that, yeah, we're talking finally about what is making all AI important, which is data.
Hmm.
We need to understand those foundational pieces.
Yes.
We are not longer talking in a vacuum.
Yes.
Now, something that is not related, right, to work, I will have to say that it is going to be and like my zen moment is when I'm just walking my dogs through the streets and I'm like, oh, it's very interesting. I didn't see this tree. It's something
Hmm.
about, just walking and being able to decompress and
Hmm.
just go and enjoy the moment.
Yes, connecting with nature, with the more pure energy which you already have in yourself, which you have not activated while you are at work, it actually frees you up. That's lovely. And we come to the last one here. What are some goals that you aspire to fulfill, and some hobbies that are helping you to keep at that goal?
So right now, big goal that I have for myself is to be able to learn more and become more active on the Gen AI tech
Hmm.
stack,
Uh-huh. Nice.
right? To work with more with LLMs.
Hmm.
And what I'm doing right now is actually I'm volunteering to with MyLife,
Hmm.
and I'm helping them not only put together, what is going to be their value proposition and put in those PRDs, but I also get to see, the tech stack
Hmm.
and help at least put some of the diagrams or just see, this is maybe an area that we are missing. This is like a
Hmm.
gap, and I'm just
Yes.
really grateful to the founders to give me that opportunity.
Hmm.
Now, my next goal
Hmm.
is going to be to try to see if I can put together my own, agent, create my little crew of agents
Hmm. Nice.
to write and this to story about dogs.
Hmm.
Just because I love dogs, I was like, let's create. It will be interesting to see if I can create my own kind of a story or for the kids, children's
Yes.
stories about dogs, and see if I can do that through an agentic crew.
Wow.
Having someone who can write idea, write it, the other one who's more like I will go ahead and polish it, and then you have the
Hmm.
main person who's like, yes, the main publisher. Let's go and put this content.
Yes. Lovely.
Okay.
It's really nice to know you as a person, because many people who are into the tech domain uh, really don't get time to talk about these things, but it's also as equal as a part of their life as work. So we really value these things in our community as well here at Modern Data 101, and we are uh, really glad to have you here. I'm so happy that I reached out to you and we are here on this call, and
I
it's
know.
it's
Thank
been
you so
lovely.
much for this great, questions. And something that I wanted to add is I'm also a big traveler, and I'm
Mhm.
always curious to visit new countries, but also understand, what
Yes.
is the tech ecosystem that
Mhm.
you might have in those countries. So
Yes.
I might be visiting your country next, and I will be like
Wow.
reaching out to say, hey, show me what you have right now. What is the current tech ecosystem here in India or in your city?
Oh my
What are you
God,
guys
nice.
innovating? What are
Nice.
you working on? Because just to give you an example, I was in Uganda
Okay.
before the pandemic,
Hmm.
and I was really surprised to discover the strong ecosystem that they had in technology and how much they were innovating into the mobile world.
Wow, nice. Very interesting. And I would be absolutely dumbstruck if you come to India, because uh, I would be really happy to host you in my hometown. And if you could come over, we'll have interesting food. My mom cooks amazing food. So
Oh, I bet. I love Indian food. Oh, and there's also another person that you must follow in India, and he's a great data lead
okay.
and a data advocate. His name is Dipanjan Sarkar.
Okay, nice. We'll definitely look into that person as well. I think I've heard his name somewhere, but yeah, we'll keep a check on that one too. So lovely. It was a great call. I had a very fun time with talking to you, Sheila. I hope it was likewise.
It was. Thank you so much for all the questions. It's always fun to think about them and say like, oh my God, now I'm a data nerd. I love it.
Thank you for having a great smile on your face on our podcast this evening. Thank you for joining us on season 1 of Analytics Heroes. For more information, visit moderndata101.com, or you can also find us Analytics Heroes on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. click subscribe so you don't miss any future episode. And on behalf of the team here at Modern, thanks for listening.